The state of exception requested by President Bukele and approved by the Legislative Assembly suspended the most basic civil and political rights, including the rights to freedom of expression and freedom of association and due process rights. Originally set for 30 days, it has been renewed 5 times and remains in effect today. As you will hear from our witnesses, more than 50,000 people have been rounded up and placed in preventive detentions since the state of exception began. That is an astounding number. I can think of no equivalent in Latin America, not even during the worst years of military dictatorship. It's a number that brings to mind Turkey under Erdogan or Egypt under el-Sisi. Others supposedly democratic states whose elected leaders have turned sharply towards authoritarianism. Those detained are reported to have little to no access to counsel and are not informed of the charges or evidence against them. Hundreds of cases of torture, physical and verbal abuse, denial of food and medicine, and other abuses have been documented. At least 73 people have died. In 2021, the government fired the Attorney General and purged 5 Supreme Court judges, resulting in a judicial system that can no longer be viewed as independent. Independent reporting on gangs and organized crime has been criminalized. Smear campaigns have been launched against journalists, and at least 9 have been forced to flee the country. In short, the government has responded to one kind of human rights crisis, the crisis of gang violence, by creating another, the dismantling of the rule of law. The state of exception has been widely criticized, including by Secretary of State Blinken, who urged the Salvadoran government to address the gang threat while also protecting vital civil liberties. But international expressions of concern have not worked to shift the calculus of the Bukele government. The U.S. has redirected some foreign assistance away from the national police and towards civil society. Some targeted sanctions have been imposed, including some designations under the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act. But only a couple of the sanctions are directly related to the state of exception. More people have been sanctioned for negotiating with gangs than for undermining democracy. I was struck by the assertion in the 2021 International Narcotics Control Strategy Report that democratic backsliding has had limited impact on El Salvador's ability to act as a cooperative and willing partner for the United States in counter-narcotics efforts. So let me be clear. I welcome the actions that the Biden administration has taken in response to the situation in El Salvador. At the same time, I think the U.S. response needs to be stronger, more strategic and affirmative of human rights, both for El Salvador and throughout the Central American region. In country after country, leaders are consolidating their power at the expense of the future of their people, using the same tactics, changing the rules so authoritarian populists can stay in power, undermining the independence of the courts, buying loyalty with corruption, shutting down the space for civil society and opposition, imprisoning people. Finally, to those who counter criticism of the Salvadoran government by saying that President Bukele's actions are popular and that his approval ratings are high, let me just say that popular doesn't equal right. The Salvadoran state has obligations under international human rights law with which it is not complying. According to government reporting, homicides have gone down significantly during the state of exception. But it's less clear what is happening with disappearances and extortion, because I believe every Salvadoran deserves to live in dignity and because it's the right thing to do. Popularity is not the guidepost.